nice front and back, leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
Welcome back to the OTB podcast, the original and still the best New Zealand mountain bike podcast, brought to you by Troy Designs, Smith Optics and Filthy Bike Wash. But boy oh boy, what a weekend of racing that was. Joining us as always, Red Dog. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm great. And Kerry, I'm just so excited to talk about the racing. Toady podcaster. My name is Jonas Kindergarten, and Brembo even has a pull. I'm really getting stuck into these guys. So
I can't believe how deep you've got into Tour de France.
Oh, I'm deep. I almost finished watching today's stage highlights. That's how deep I am.
I thought you were gonna say you watched the whole day's stage, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what have you been doing?
You gotta be a psychopath to do that.
Yeah, it's true. But speaking of psychopaths, that could be Lester. Are you a full stage kind of guy, Lester?
Oh, nah, not anymore, mate. Nobody's got time for that. I got to say, I watched the whole World Cup and the highlights, and that's about it. The highlights of the tour, and that's about it for me.
Everyone had time for the World Cup. Geez, that was a good race. But before we get too far into that, Chris Vanderkolk also joining us. Great to have you back, mate. We missed you last episode.
Thanks very much, KB. It's a pleasure to be back. I'd like to say I've come back refreshed, refocused, re-energized, but I'm not. I'm a bit sick, a bit tired. It's middle of winter, but I'm glad to be here.
But do you know what that is? It's because we're all dads. We're all a bit sick at the moment. It's the preschool germs.
That's right.
I'm fully sick.
We're here, and we're here for the listeners. Well, at least that's why I do it, mainly.
Yeah. I don't know. We don't do it for anything else. We're not doing it for money, that's for sure.
What a weekend of bike sports, though, eh? What a weekend.
Holy shit. That World Cup was the most entertaining World Cup I have watched in quite some time. And I don't know whether it was just for the full lottery effect of if people were going to make it through the slip and slide section as they came out of the trees, or whether it was actually just good racing. But I think it was a combination of both.
Yeah, got to be both for sure.
I like the fact that it was, sometimes these races when it turns to shit, it can just turn into a bit of a circus, and it's just a bit lame. But this was actually really, really good racing, and you could see the guys that had the experience to deal with it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because there was those people, almost that veteran kind of skill coming through. And I mean, Minnaar's Masters too. So I mean, there's some real veteran skill coming through. But I was sitting there convinced that he was gonna win his 23rd, 24th World Cup. I was like, this is happening. I don't think anyone's gonna beat him. But lo and behold, Andy Cole put it to him for a start. It was an impressive run.
I wasn't expecting that. I don't know why, but I don't really have him pegged as like a wet guy.
No, he won Leogang in the dry, right, last year.
Mm.
And
he hasn't kind of shown anything that he's... I don't know. I don't know if it comes down to guys who are like comfortable in the wet or comfortable to push in the unknown, because they hadn't really ridden that condition all week, right?
No, I think it was a little bit wet to start, but it sounded like it had just been drying out pretty much consistently all through practice, and then it started raining like 10 minutes before the women started, apparently.
It did look like anyone who tried to hang it out, it didn't work out for them, except for Amaury.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
it's...
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
I found it like super interesting. Watched his run and I was like, man, he's like kind of showing his normal sort of flair or whatever that he would. But then watching his helmet cam,
so dialed.
It's so dialed, and you can see like he's obviously hitting all of the ruts, and my gut feeling is that he like got the perfect timing when he came down as well, in terms of like the ruts you could see were actually soft, so he had some traction in them, and then the bits which were like not ruts or not soft were like hard pack and they were straight. So it looked like every time that he was turning or doing a major corner, he was in a rut and it was soft.
Yeah, his run was clinical. When you watch that helmet cam, like he makes that one mistake kind of up near the top and goes a bit offline, but everything else he looks like he is just 100% online. Like there's nothing where you really were like, holy shit, you know, like remember he used to have those runs where he was just, you thought he was going to die, but he would win. But these last 2 rounds has just been on point and then into a huge win margin.
It's like he used to ride over the limit and sort of like, but not actually need to win. And so he sort of dialed it back a little bit to be a bit more consistent maybe, but that's still fast enough to win.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
It's
I mean,
impressive.
he looks to me way more calculated than he used to look. Maybe that's just come with experience and time.
The pace is still there. He just looks more refined. He used to ride the knife edge a bit, not in like a super wild way. Like he wouldn't be out of control, but you could tell it was on the edge of traction all the time.
The other thing though with the wet, I mean, anyone who's ever raced in the wet knows, like, if you're tense, it just goes to shit. And if you're aggressive and kind of like, I don't know, relaxed or confident, it makes a big difference. And you could see that with Amaury, like that one key section that fucked everyone. He rode that like it was a different section of track to what everyone else rode.
You didn't even dab.
The guys that didn't crash in it were like pretty kind of cautious getting through there. And he was just foot up, ripped it.
Interesting what you say about that, Chris. Like, Gwyn said something in the commentary which I found quite interesting, and he kind of, it sort of just got passed by, but he was talking about the heart rates in the start gate, and Bruni was 135 in the start gate, and Ronan Dunn, was it him who crashed on the first corner?
Yeah, so like 175 out of the gate.
160 something sitting in the gate. Yeah. And Gwyn was like, you know, that shows the experience there, and he just kind of made an off the side remark, but I was like, actually, that's probably on the money. Like Loick's like fully calm in the zone, and you see it in how he rides, and then you see that hype that somebody like Dunn rides with, and that chaos that he he rides in a reasonably chaotic manner.
Yeah, Rennie looked like he was just in point salvaged mode. Like, yeah, totally. I'm just gonna get to the bottom, because I mean, you look at what happened to Finn. Like Finn went from second in the overall to fourth in the overall. He was the biggest loser on the day, really, in terms of like positioning like that. He just cooked it completely. But it was I mean, he was looking great till his first crash, and then it just compounded from there to what turned into a disaster.
I was looking for Bernie. Bernie ripped that key section, and then he binned it in the left, and he looked like he was on a tidy run, because he was one other guy that same thing. He came to that section just super clean, and then just pushed it in the next corner, which is real shame.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I went back and watched Minnaar's run today, just purely out of interest, to kind of go back and compare to the conditions now just looking at the conditions compared to what Amaury raced in, and it was some bits were similar, but then like in that open session we've been talking about, he was still kicking up dust when he came through there.
True.
It was just sitting on the top. So the conditions changed a fair bit, but I mean,
I think that's that argument. That was the kind of argument that was that, like, is what you can't really tell from the broadcast was, what did it get softer for Amaury and therefore like something to actually like grip, or did Greg have that kind of slick layer sitting on top of just grease? And somewhere in the middle of the whole race, there was like another condition that existed for a while there.
Yeah, I think the conditions changed like continuously, because there were sections where Greg was sliding and like having to drop a foot and dab to keep himself up. He did it probably 4 times in his run, where his bike just went on him out of nowhere. And then in comparison to like Amaury, it was super wet, but he seemed to have traction all day.
Yeah, I was surprised on Amaury's helmet run how much of it was a stream that he was going down.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the best to ride in. Like sometimes that actually gives you so much traction when it's that wet.
It would have been so unpredictable though, because like that section, that key section, I don't think it would have mattered what time of the day you went down there. It looked greasy as all hell.
Yeah.
And also, if you looked at, I think it was Ed's footage. He was standing at the bottom of that right-hander before the big left and then the gap, and that corner was just a wall that then just had a fucking massive hole in it. Like it looked so tapped, and it like by the end of the day it would have been a mess. I think anyone that got down that foot up was a hero.
Yeah,
totally. Well, I think Amaury was about the only person that I reckon was the only person who didn't drop a foot and got through that whole section.
And Bernie ripped it as well, but then got cooked in the next corner.
Someone else? Oh, T-Roy? Oh no, he might have taken a foot off.
Nah, he had a rudder out.
Yeah.
There was some great moments on that.
I'm blinded by
my
love for T-Roy.
It kept it interesting. Red Dog, would you have put an asterisk on a win if Minnaar had won that?
I would have put 2.
You would have put 2 asterisks on there?
One indicating his age class. That would have been like a...
Yeah, right. So it would have actually had a little M2 up on there.
Yeah, I would have put that in there as well. I think the podcast actually called a rain-affected podium, didn't we?
I think it was you who did call that, Red Dog.
Well, I thought we were unanimous, I believe.
Was it unanimous? Yeah. I mean, it was what he did at Andorra last year.
He's just good at it.
He's been racing downhill so long that he's got like home track advantage on every downhill track, even if they go to a new one. You know how like Enduro is a bit of a false economy? They go and race like a Nelson, it's like all the Nelson guys do really well. Exactly. But like with Greg, it's just he's got home track advantage everywhere.
Yeah, every track.
He's just been everywhere. So even if they haven't raced it before, he's probably been there before anyway.
What did they say the first time he'd gone to Leger was 98. Like probably half the elite field wasn't born in 98.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, didn't you have a note in the show notes there, Chris, around the young fellas not knowing how to ride mud?
I'd say it was a question. My question was, do the kids know how to ride mud?
No,
probably. Do you reckon they're getting off the TikTok, or are they just busy? You know, if it's a wet day, they just stay inside on the TikTok. And
I reckon they're getting on TikTok. Fortnite. I actually have a theory on this that I'd like to discuss with you guys. It's very theoretical, but the old boys that race downhill when bikes were way smaller and way harder to like handle had to be better bike handlers and more dynamic on their bike, and the young guys don't as much. And when it's wet, you've got to be a better bike handler. And I reckon that showed this weekend. Like if you're used to just riding a big long sled and going super fast on dry tracks, last weekend would have been real hard for you.
I can get on board with some of this with you because, I mean, when we were first riding 26-inch bikes as young fellas, like they were either A, shit, or B, they were somewhat good but just fully fucking clapped out because you'd brought it off like some local somewhat pro.
Run a season through it.
Yeah, and you just had to ride some piece of shit, and like you say, you had to learn how to ride it. You didn't have this mint condition bike that could win a World Cup straight as you were like 14 years old.
That's my theory, is that the young guys, like compared to, because a lot of the older guys did better this weekend, right? Not like Greg Minnaar old, but the guys that have been around for a while, and experience and bike handling appeared to show pretty clearly.
Would you say
was a mix? It was a mix though. You know, like Rennie Terrion in fourth, like that was some clear veteran, skilled wet rider riding. But then like Thomas the Stack, like he's not that old. He was in fifth. Ronan still pulled a top 10. Austin Dooley in 10th. Lockie in 11th. So
The
I
Rona
think
pull
it
the
had more
top
to
10
do
with
with
that
where they
crash.
started.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, that was
I
good.
think that I reckon you're onto something there, but then you see how many of those dudes were like in Morzine in the rain in the week or two leading up to that race as well, all riding in the wet, and you see all the clips on the gram of them like riding in slop and stuff. So
these
I
guys
wonder if it's
definitely
probably
ride a lot.
more. I wouldn't like wonder if it's so much bike skill, but more just the head game, the experience that
That
makes the
probably
difference
explains
in the
more,
mud.
really.
Yeah, like like you were saying before, KB, about riding stiff. Like if you're confident in the mud, I mean, you guys know you'd have times when you're just like ripping in the mud and you're like, man, this is sick. And then there's other times where everything's the same, but you just cannot do it.
Rotorua Winter Champs 2012. Pissed
Yeah,
with rain
wow.
all weekend,
the
and I
man.
didn't have one single crash, and it was like axle deep ruts the whole day.
There you go.
It was
Yeah,
a
but
great race. As
Rotorua in the proper mud is so sick, though. That
That
dude's
was
amazing. When
that
it's
was a great
properly
race.
muddy.
Me and Red Dog flew to Rotorua just especially for that one.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
FIFO. Yeah, boy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a great
All
one.
right, actually, nothing better to do, I guess.
I think we just went up and hung out and
Hung
went
out.
downhill racing. We were dedicated.
It was muddy. I remember it being very muddy.
Not
That's fun.
anymore, eh? Now you guys just want to go and ride your bike all day instead of sitting in the queue with people.
Oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. Yeah, yeah. Just want to go and ride my bike between cafes for 200 k's.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Who doesn't?
Red Dog is just doing like industry stuff these days, test riding bikes for people and writing articles. And I'm not confusing Red Dog with Moki because that's what you're doing, Moki. And KB's just out here going to staff training rides with Saws. So like, no one's actually in this for the love of the sport of mountain biking anymore.
They're just milking it for the dollars.
Yeah,
We're all
and
just there for the dollar.
not even I am. I'm just here because I need some mates.
Social hour. Before we get on to our bike riding habits, if you'd asked me if Eleanor Farina would win a World Cup this year, I would have definitely said no. So hats off to her. That was a pretty impressive ride in those conditions.
That was.
That's a hell of a backhanded compliment.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
Is there an asterisk
it's
there?
probably fair.
You look at the people, like Tani, Valley, Miriam, like they're pretty
Stackfield.
dominant. It's I didn't really think she'd be pulling that off, and it was a massive result. She put a 6.7 win margin or 6.5 second win margin in.
How do you reckon she was pushing, or she she just took it easy and that's why she kept it upright?
Yeah,
She came down pretty early.
And she came down early, yeah.
She was the fastest on split 4, so she definitely finished the race well, where everyone else I think was having the biggest issues. But I think it was a bit of a combo. It's so hard to know, without being on the bike in those conditions and seeing what they were like.
Is anyone else surprised how long it took for the word to get out around going low line on that on that slick section?
I was wondering about that.
I
was surprised how many guys came into that section charging.
Yeah, like fully on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch the women's and you go like that, and Gwyn's talking about it. He's like, "Yeah, there's a low line down there. There's a low line down there. No one's touched it."
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it for
Minnaar
people?
Straight away, first guy, straight in.
Do you not think team managers or whatever would be straight on the phone, being like, "Minnaar's gone low here.
Yeah.
This corner is fucked. Like, you have to go low."
Yeah.
How did they miss that?
How many guys, and I suppose you'd never really notice, but how many guys, surely some guys would have a rule that just be like, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know what other people's times are. I don't want to see footage. I've got my lines. I've got my process. And I reckon that would be an experience thing as well, right? Like, guys like Greg would be saying, yeah, I need all the information I need. But I imagine some guys are just like, no, I'm just going to go and race.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't want to know times and things like that, but I feel like some feedback on things like that would be... I guess it depends on the person, because some people will be like, nah, I've got my lines. I don't want to start second-guessing anything. But I mean, clearly they've gone to Greg and been like, hey, this is the line. It's ice above it, so just ride this. Because he came in and you could see he kind of comes in. He wouldn't have looked at it prior to that. It looked like he came in being like, okay, where's that line? All right, I'm going to hang a foot.
There
And
it
I'm
is.
just going to, I'm going to get my way through this and get around this corner, and then I'm out of here again. Like, there was a real, I don't really know where I'm going, but this is, I'm going to make it work.
These guys would stack up so much footage across the course of the weekend, like head cams and stuff going, like, I'm guessing no one would have in the start huddle, like, before the race run, but any one of those guys could have pulled up their own head cam from practice or anything. They'd be like, oh yeah, cool, and you get here, go here instead of here. And get the visual cues and all that kind of stuff. I'm also curious to know how long it is before someone puts a mic setup, like Tour de France style.
I don't think they're allowed to.
I think they should run it out. Like,
helmet
let's run an
radio.
experiment. Yeah. I think, Kerry, next race we do, I think we should mic you up.
For me to talk or for you guys to talk to me? Like to talk me through the race
one-way
run?
radio. Like the three of us are just talking to you.
I'll get so confused.
Let's push sector 3. Go, go, go.
That'd be great.
It'd just be like 3 minutes of me telling you, like, dude, these young guys, we shouldn't even be out here.
Yeah.
Let's just go.
What are you even doing still?
Yeah.
Jesus, Kieran, slow down,
dude,
mate.
That's gnarly. Nah, I've just seen something gnarly. Let's go home, man.
All right, just
don't ride that line.
Back it off.
Back it up.
Whoa,
Pull
whoa,
off.
whoa, whoa.
Pull off.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Speaking of that infamous section at the bottom of the course, what the fuck was Ethan Craig thinking, still trying to ride the inside line?
Oh, yeah, it was.
But then on the flip side, Terrion rode it out.
But it's Terrion.
Yeah.
He's amazing. How many guys, this is what I mean, like, that looked like he came in just almost like blind to the fact that it was raining.
Yeah, like, still drying.
It looked like he came in and was just like, all right, up we go. And anyone that tried to put a wheel high, like at the top of that chute, just got fucking cooked. Because they got the front wheel up and the back wheel just came around on them. Like the number of guys that ended up backwards.
There was there was definitely more than one rear entry into that turn. Like they just sliding down that chute and they just ended up hitting that turn backwards pretty much.
And then they were getting catapulted out through the netting. That was
over the net. Someone, I can't remember who it is now, I think they ended up above the net, but there was like some Shimano banners or something that looked like they had a real sturdy peg holding them in place, and they punted one of those pegs real hard. Like the peg didn't move. They moved.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was. How many do you think? There was probably until the top 10, maybe. The attrition rate through there must have been so low.
I reckon 4 or 5 out of that whole final made it through.
Oh, it was.
There were only 10 guys who didn't crash, apparently.
Was that it? There we go.
Yeah. Like over the whole course of the whole race run.
Wow,
because there were guys that crashed elsewhere on the course, which is so gnarly.
That's that's wild. It was an absolutely cooked section. My my fantasy team got absolutely just fucking railed because I forgot to change it, and they put Kate Edwards on there for me. So thanks, Pink Bike, because we all know Kate still racing World Cups.
Yes. You're supposed to change that.
Yeah, I know, but I forgot and didn't really care. Someone now by the name of Pirates is leading the league, the OTB league.
Does he get a prize?
No, we haven't got any prizes. We're a low budget.
Oh, okay.
Someone called Shancy won the weekend.
All right. How many points?
Amazingly, they had Finn Isles on the team.
Really? Oh, I think everyone would have been like that though. Had someone.
Right.
Do you think Finn will make it?
Finn will make it. Hey man, he did pretty well last round.
You know what, Chris? My wife, she said after he fell down that bank and through the netting, she said, you know what? I think Finn's right on the verge of just winning a whole lot of stuff.
Well,
I thought it was an interesting time to make that comment. As a guy's like just peeled through some netting and down a bank. But
was that Pip just being like really sarcastic, but really about it?
She was serious. So maybe she sees something in Finn that we don't.
Maybe.
Well, I think he's almost there. I kind of agree.
You know what? I think she might be on something, because I reckon one of the things that this weekend might have exposed to him is when to back it off, because he does appear to have matured as a racer a lot lately. But this weekend, I think he could have taken a leap out of Lowett's block. But maybe Pip's right. Maybe I've been wrong all along.
She could be onto it.
Maybe we already know that.
Leger, iconic location. What's the spiritual home of World Cup downhill racing for you guys? You're thinking World Cups, what's the venue?
For me, it has to be in the Alps. The spiritual home of downhill racing has
You
got to be.
You are a ski racing guy, though, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I can't fuck with Fort William. Fort William is not exciting racing.
Nah, I'm there with you.
Motorway section and a million other things. I feel like Mont Saint Anne is close because it's also relatively alpine. But yeah, for me, it's got to be in the European Alps because it's just big and steep and gnarly.
See, I was contemplating this myself as well, and for me it was Leger or Mont Saint Anne, because I feel like Leger, no matter what, going back to the 2000s, it has produced awesome racing. But it just doesn't have, I guess, the longevity that Mont Saint Anne has had of 20 something years of consistently having a World Cup. But it's got to be one of those two.
You know where I'd like to see a World Cup return to is
Japan.
Well, I was about to say Japan.
But no, like a big beer, super dry California, rocky, blowing out bullshit dust bowl stuff. Like JK Norba sort of era. I feel like the closest we've got at the moment is probably Andorra. Can be a little bit like that, but that's still alpine. I want that jagged ass, broken up rock bullshit.
Yeah, that would be epic.
And the after party has to be way, way better than what we're seeing lately. And there has to be proper competitions in the pits.
We haven't been seeing the after parties though, so we're pretty removed on that side.
Speaking of which, Kerry, should we dive into that throwback results sheet? Speaking of after parties,
actually, Red Dog found this one, and it was Minnaar's very first third place.
Third place. Yeah.
So he'd already had two podiums before this though.
And he had got third at World Champs as well.
He'd also won the World Cup title the year before, but it was just his first third place. But so this was Mont Saint Anne 2002, and it's just iconic. Steve Peat wins, Gracia second, Minnaar third, Claudio Calauri, the former commentator, fourth, Oscar Sears in fifth, Nathan Rankin in sixth. What a legend!
Yeah, that's the one.
McCarroll.
Sean McCarroll in seventh, also another legend. Kavara with the number 1 plate.
I want to run you through this. I want to see this scenario. You've got Rankin, you've got JK in 14th. You've then got, who was the other? Dodsey in 72nd. And Glenn Hayden, he qualified 41st and then he DNF'd. Now, I just want to say, that's almost your four pillars of mid-2000s or early 2000s after parties, downhill after parties, right there.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
That's a very strong showing. And also, Kerry, all North Islanders. What was going on with the South Island in this era?
South Island really didn't develop until Justin Leoff broke through.
South Island was a bit of a backwater for downhill, eh?
Yeah, that's interesting. Cool.
It was the real development of South Island racing, I think. Coming out of Blenheim.
It's weird though, because I wouldn't have said Wanganui and Levin. Well, We're just absolute meccas.
But look at these teams.
Downhill was a pretty bogan sport in New Zealand back in those days.
Yeah,
It's
that's
still,
true.
I mean, it still
sort
kind
of
of
like,
is.
Yeah, I don't know. We're seeing a lot more like fucking European SUVs in the car park at Coronet and
It's
Peak
true.
than we did in the old days, KB.
It is true.
Yeah,
it is true.
This is very true.
So PD won. He would have been on the orange at that point in 02. Is he on the orange by then?
Yeah, he would have been orange, yeah.
Because he's got no
Maybe
team
that's silver
listed.
How about Geordie
Gracia's
Lunn, 60th?
Gracia's on Volvo Cannondale. Minnaar's on Global. Maxis MSC. That was a strong European team back in those days. Rankin's on Foes in 6th. Carroll's on Global. B1. Michael Pascal on B1. Like, B1 was a real powerhouse at that point, too.
Sick.
Bears de Beaver would have been riding a B1, wouldn't he?
He would have been on B1, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, definitely. There's some there were some real strong teams out there. Camellini on Vulios Racing. Man, Mick Hanna on Haro Lead Dungarees. Imagine being sponsored by Jeans Company.
That was a sick team, actually.
Haro Lead Dungarees on a
Intense.
on an Intense.
Yeah.
Haro was like, that was big X Games era though, right?
Yeah,
that was a powerhouse team, because I'm not sure if it was still the way then, but they had Mike King on there.
Yeah,
Mike King was running the team and racing, I think, around that point.
Yeah, his glory days would have been before that. My mind's gone blank. There was like 4 odd good riders. Can't remember. Anyway, it's that long ago now.
Awesome. Speaking of World Cups, I heard a pretty good rumor. Well, I got some pretty good rumors out of a man who's pretty heavily involved with a World Cup team, and around some big chatter going on in the pits about what's happening next year. So sounds like there's a real push to almost go to like a Formula One style from like the bullet points I got in this message. So it'll be 17. It's got 17 plus 3 teams. I don't exactly know what that means, but it sounds like it's going to be slimmed down. So there's only going to be a limited number of teams. Handful of rotating wildcard teams per round. Pits for the elite teams will be like fully separated from everyone else, so it'll be like a real like elite status. Still a way for other teams to enter, but you're going to be like miles away, parked down another field. 10 rounds.
Story of my life.
Yeah. So 10 rounds, 3 in North America, and Whistler sounds like it's going to happen, or very close to it.
Gnarly.
That'll be pretty sick.
That will be sick.
And the last point that they wanted to point out is that it's what are we now? We're in July, and I mean, if you've ever dealt with trying to get money out of people and budgets and things like that, if you're looking for sponsors, they want to know how much money you want now so they can commit it for next year. None of these teams have any idea what's actually happening on the series next year, so they still haven't even been told.
Is your source, KB, someone who is close to or part of a team that would just by default be one of those teams? Like, are they a top tier team?
They are a pretty high up team. They'd probably be on that bubble of elite and next team.
Because I was wondering about this. The model that they're talking about sounds quite similar to what a lot of other sports same sort of format, like down like F1 and NASCAR. I was watching something about NASCAR. It's exactly this. Well, the tour's got trade teams, right? So like trade teams have to have a spot.
Yeah.
But what'd be interesting is what the commercial model is for that. Whether the teams just get given the right to be there, or whether they buy the right to be there, or whether they potentially actually get proceeds for being there. Because like with NASCAR, there's this interesting thing, and it's a real problem with it at the moment. But the teams essentially they have it's like a franchise model they tried to give out, right? So create this thing where there's X number of slots, you get a slot as a team, and the idea, or what the teams are fighting for, is that they own the right to be there, and as part of being a franchisee, you get like a share of the profit and everything.
Same as what they're doing with World Supercross.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is entirely speculation, but depending on how the whole thing's governed, the idea of like you having almost like ownership of a trade slot, because that's how it works with downhill with F1, is like that can be very lucrative, but it depends entirely on the governance of the whole thing.
I don't know. Mountain biking's never been that lucrative. I don't see it being a lucrative deal for them.
Well,
they'll probably still pay entry fees. Probably still paying for pit spaces. I think the biggest point is that no one has any idea what's actually happening next year. So no one knows how the hell to budget or what they're budgeting for.
It's just madness, eh? It is madness.
Because if you're trying to put a budget together for a team now, like if you're trying to go to Fox and Troy Designs and whoever and asking them for money, and you're going, well, I think we're going to need about this much money to make the team run, and then you find out it's actually like 12 rounds instead of 7, and then you go, well, fuck.
So how many teams did you say they would be talking about?
17, I think it was on there.
17 slots.
Could you name 17 teams right now?
Nah.
Because that's quite a few, eh?
It is quite a lot.
I mean, there's about 14 common cell teams, so
it's true.
Them specialised. Can you call it?
I wonder about that, like, because it can also be the other way around. Whereas if you're a sponsor, so yeah, if you're a team, you're trying to put together team sponsorship and everything. But if it's the other way around, if you're say a Fox or a RockShox or whoever else, and you're going right, we're going to be at the World Cup next year. There's going to be potentially 17 teams. We've got to make sure we've got X amount of coverage for it. Like, does it create an environment where the sponsors or the brands that want to be part of the World Cup are just expecting to be there and they're just making sure they're lining up with the right teams? It's entirely hypothetical.
I would say that that's the case, because there's some of those agreements, they'll be just, it's like, yeah, we're along for the ride, kind of regardless what the cost is. Like a Fox on a common cell team, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
that's going to... The bigger concern's got to be like, well, where are the races? Because if you're trying to decide how many months are we going to be spending in the US versus Europe, that's a real problem. And you kind of need to know now.
I guess if they've already got some sort of intel potentially in terms of we've got 3 in North America or whatever, and you got whatever over here. It is just mad though. Like, I just think about, I mean, I'm planning what's happening in January for Christmas holidays and that kind of thing, you know? Like, how on earth are you supposed to run a global downhill team?
Crazy.
You've got to go to the financial controller of the house to get budget for this trip.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you're reupholstering the camper van, Smokey. Like, you got shit to do, man.
That's
putting some new wood paneling inside it.
Fuck yeah.
Truth be told, I did fix the toilet on it yesterday. So
good.
Chalk one
Fuck, I'm glad I know that. Thanks very much, Smokey.
What was the issue, Smokey? You really want to deep dive here?
It wasn't flushing.
Oh, that's a real issue.
That is a real issue.
That's a real issue.
Yeah.
How did you
the fix at the time was to use the shower, which is just above.
So you shit? Did you shit in the shower, or
basically?
You waffle stomp.
Yeah.
That's rough. Poor family, man. Like, hey, kids, let's go on the camper van holiday this year. No, I'm not keen, Dad.
You got to do what you got to do.
Not another one of those.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Hey, so, me and Red Dog, we were supposed to be joined by Chris, but Chris had some things that pulled him out. We went for our shortest day, longest ride. I didn't want to call it longest ride because I was like, how do you really clarify longest ride? But we put in a good 200 Ks that day. And Red Dog then, the next day, decides to ride in the pissing rain from Nelson to Picton and catch the ferry, saturated.
Look, you're making out like I'm Joe Nation. This wasn't it wasn't too hard.
It still looked pretty grim.
It must have been pretty horrid though.
The rain actually wasn't too bad. The bit between like the Fogmars and maybe the Rye, or just actually Rye to Havelock, that was pretty grim and quite scary because I was on the road.
I drove through there like a week later, and I was looking on the side of the road, and there is no shoulder. I was like, that looks
it's a bit
horrendous.
shit.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So I just had to put the head down and kind of like make sure I was as out of the way as possible. It wasn't too busy, so that was all right. And then I had a pork belly pie, Chris, in Havelock, and that was really, really good. Yeah,
That's real
that
good.
was good.
That's bold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry I missed it, guys. I did have FOMO. I would have.
You wouldn't have had FOMO on the leg out of. So we rode the Great Taste Trail in Nelson. We did the full trail, started in Nelson. We did miss the section out to Kaiteri just because it was kind of pissing with rain at that point. We decided that was enough.
No, it was not. It had been drizzling, and everyone was like, "Fuck this around."
Yeah.
Oh,
come on, let's be honest here.
I mean,
it had been.
Rawlins bloody turned right straight away, and no, there was no objection.
Yeah. Me and Rawlins had a good battle at the CX in the weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
You've got a story, KB.
Tell us about the toothpick. Firstly, who the fuck has a toothpick in their car?
Well, I've got a broken tooth, so I have to have toothpicks at all times.
Did you get into a fight, Kieran?
Nah, it's a molar. It just broke on me. But so
that's an age thing, eh? Your teeth are falling out. Fuck,
definitely old man problem.
Yeah. That's what it is though. Like back in the day, like people would die because their teeth would fall out and they couldn't eat, so they're just left on the side of the trail.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen to KB. He's going to be like 60. It's like, oh, his teeth falling out. Oh, he's probably only got about 4 months left because he's going to die of starvation.
He'll be on the side of the Great Taste Trail.
Yeah.
Kieran's going to live on gels.
I did once go into a ride years ago after having 3 wisdom teeth out a couple of days later, and I was on codeine at the time, and I didn't realise. Well, I kind of realised, but I didn't think it would be as bad as it was, and only had like I think a couple of 1 square meals, and it turned out that mid-ride I just couldn't eat them because my mouth was too sore. So
so
I just had to.
They left you there.
Pretty much, I just was left on the side of the trail to die. But no, so race the CX race, and then packing up. Kids were there. Oscar had raced in the morning, done the kids race, first race, so I was pretty proud. He got around the whole thing. It was pretty cool. And he'd been fucking around in the van with one of his friends while I was racing, and we go to leave, and I go to put the key in the ignition, and it just like stops dead just as I go to put it in, and I'm like, the fuck? And I look, and there's a broken toothpick just stuck in the ignition.
Oh, it's so good.
And the worst bit is, there's like a kind of flat bit that kind of sticks straight down that the key pushes up when it goes in. But that flat bit was jamming the toothpick down, so every time I try to like get the toothpick, it was just hooked on this, and you couldn't pull it out. So luckily it was just up the road from Mum and Dad's. I got the old man to come up with a few tools.
I was going to say
we got nowhere except for losing the toothpick further into the lock barrel.
No way.
Is this related to your story about visiting the gang pad with your dad when you were young, and your old man knew someone who knows how to hotwire a truck?
No, there probably was someone around like that, but no.
I think that devastated Bev that he couldn't fix that. It would have devastated him.
So yeah, we'd already sent the kids off with someone else, and so Katie got her mum to come pick her up. Luckily, this was a pretty local CX race. It was in Brantford Park, so it was pretty nice and handy. And by this point, the course is packed up and everyone's gone, and I'm just sitting on the side of the road next to Brantford Park. So cool roadside assist. And old mate comes up. 45 minutes later, he gets there. He comes around, has a look. First thing, that's a locksmith job, that one is.
Oh, no way.
So he He has a
that's
look at
good.
it. He spends a few minutes doing the same shit that I'd already tried, and he basically admits defeat as well. And he's like, right, I'll go and organise a locksmith for you. And so he goes off and does
That's
that. And he's
so
like,
good.
right, they're booked in, they're on their way. Hopefully they won't be long. So I'm sitting in the van. I was like, man, I got to at least try something. So by this point we could get the key in, but it just didn't seem to be actually unlocking the barrel. So I've got the key in there and I'm just kind of in and out, twisting, pushing, and then finally I give it like a good shunt in and it turns. And I'm like, oh fuck, we're away. So now there's just a trick to turning the van on. You just got to give the key a really good shunt to get it past that probably last bit of toothpick that's jammed in there.
Oh, that's so good.
And then it's a little bit jammed when you pull it out, but I got it solved eventually. So I had to call roadside assist back and tell them not to call off the locksmith because we got it dialed. But 2 hours post race, everyone's long gone. All that's left is the shape of a dick going up the hill where they'd made the course go down. A big muddy dick.
Was that
At any
intentional?
point, Kerry, did you consider just going, you know what, I might just go for a 2-hour ride here and say that, oh, okay, you got stuck and we couldn't figure it out?
I mean, clearly the Stig was still in the back of the van, as was my kit. I did consider getting it out and just going for a ride. So it was crossing my mind. And
That's good stuff.
yeah, so that was good. Don't let your kids fuck around with toothpicks and stick them in your ignition. That's
what happens when you get your kids into cyclocross. They do shit like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that was revolt. Do you reckon? Like maybe he was he was pushing back.
It's like one of those.
That was Oscar's way of saying I don't want to leave. Like I want to hit more laps, Dad.
This is
maybe.
your brain on cyclocross.
We've got work to do.
Is that what it was?
It was pretty funny. There was him and a few of his little mates that all did it, and but the whole draw card was that they got to go to Macca's afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So they did the race, and then like there was the mountain bike class racing. So we went to Macca's, and they had Macca's, and then the only good outcome of this was that whilst I was waiting for roadside assist and rummaging through the van, I found half a cheeseburger that Oscar hadn't eaten, so I had half a cold cheeseburger post race.
Oh, that's good. It sounds like a great day out, Gary.
Silver lining, eh?
Yeah,
that would have counted. That's some great. That was a really good day's training towards some big goals later in the year, KB.
Yeah. Well, as it was, all I did was about 50 minutes of riding for the day, so it probably wasn't actually that vital towards anything, especially when we're looking at some like 6-hour plus days coming up later in the year.
Hey, speaking of 6-hour plus days, I've got a question for you guys. I sent you all a few pictures, and Kerry, you might want to pop these on the gram for our listeners. Why does Abrahamson in the Tour de France in the results page after the highlights always look like he's there by mistake?
He looks terrified.
I know the first day, like everyone else, their photos look totally normal, and they're kind of, like for the listeners, this is when they show the results at the end of the highlights, and the riders, it's like they've taken a photo, but it's like a slightly moving photo. And most of the riders look normal, like Vingegaard's doing his shirt up and shit. But Abrahamson just looks like he's entered the tour by mistake. He's in the studio getting photos by mistake, and he's going, what am I doing here?
I just have to go with
Who are you guys?
It's a real big eyes, brown pants kind of look.
Yeah,
it's definitely so good. You watch it. Go and watch the highlights. It's like,
I'll post that up on the story.
What is this polka dot jersey?
Yeah. Why the hell am I wearing a polka dot jersey? I look like
what is this?
Ridiculous.
Chris, did you enter the miler or not?
No, not voluntarily. I would never do a thing like that.
Oh, we did a draw last episode when you weren't here.
Did you not get?
Yeah,
did you actually do the draw?
Oh, did we not tell you about that?
Well, no. See, this is how you know I haven't listened to last week's episode.
Yeah.
I need to go back and listen to the episode to find out whether or not you took the piss.
Yeah, we did a random draw. We chose you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
random.
That's a real stitch up is doing a 4-way random draw when there's only 3 people on the call.
Yeah.
We just put your name in 4 times.
The way things are going, no one's going to benefit from that, unfortunately. It's just.
Do we maybe need to put you in for like the 25 or something instead?
We will. We'll benefit.
Well,
the listeners will.
I'm in a bit of a jam here because
here we go.
My build up, my training's better than it's ever been because I've now done 200k races. Yeah, and I've done a couple of runs. Like I've taken the dog for a few runs. Essentially, life's just gotten in the way of doing any real form of training for the last month.
You realise that it's months away yet.
You got heaps of weeks to go.
Well, this is the thing is that I this is where I'm confused, right? Because I'm confident because like we did the fault line earlier this year, and that felt like an improvement on the Fokker, and it was a harder race. So I don't know whether I'm like actually going to be coming into it.
Well, here's
better off or not. So
using that logic,
I'm just going to go in confident. I'm just going to go in blind.
Go in confident. You do the Fokker, and then come down to Edition 0 with us, and you'll be absolutely primed for that.
We've got an entry code for you.
Prime's a relative term, Moki. Like, prime's but compared to what?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the
what you'd otherwise be,
and then I'm going to go for a 3-week taper of not riding before the for Edition 0.
I heard someone described Edition 0 to me the other day as it's a really nice course over 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, it'd be a nice place to go on a holiday and do a few days of riding.
Nah, Lester says it's fine because you're racing the whole time.
I've taken the week off after Fokker. We're staying up there as a family for a family holiday, so I'm banking on recovering a day later. So either that or I'll still be on course on Wednesday.
Well, this is really looking good for you to do the miler then, isn't it? I mean, you've got
plenty of time to finish it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything that will indict me. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Well, if you want to come, me and KB are going at Edition 0, mate. You're more than welcome.
After me and Red
very
Dogs,
kind of you guys.
After me and Red Dogs, shortest day, longest ride, I vowed about 3/4 of the way through the day, as we were climbing up this shitty clay road in the rain, that I was done and that I was not going to race Edition 0. And then a week later, I was doing my entry.
That's what happens, though, isn't it? It's like
I flip-flop pretty quickly.
The problem with this shit is that you do something really hard. It's full Type 3 fun. And then about an hour after you finish, you're like, fuck this, man. That's what happened to me with the fault line. Sorry, not fault line. Yeah, fault line. I was in a state most of the day, and I was so broken at the end of the race. And then I got home, and I was like, fuck, that was awesome. I reckon we line up another one of those pretty soon. Where's the next one of these fucking punishing 100k races? It's like you have a window afterwards. Yeah, what's it going to be?
Well, hey, don't worry, because the good news is we can do the Walker at the end of this year, and then we can come back at the start of next year for the Volcanic Epic, and we can do 4 days of it.
I'm super keen on that. Yeah. I have FOMO about the Volcanic Epic this year.
Yeah, it looks good. We'll be Possibles versus Probables teams race.
Yeah, I reckon it'll be good.
No, we're going to need 2. We're going to need 2 additional riders to come along because you're going to need a legitimate partner, Red Dog.
No, we're the Possibles. KB and Moki are the Probables. They'll probably win. We'll possibly win if one of them
you've got a coach. You're not a
Red Dog's got a power meter.
You're a likely.
Red Dog's got a power meter.
I bought a power meter, guys.
Man, I'm getting left in the dust here. Not only has he got a coach, and he's training.
It's time to be worried. He's a dark horse.
Worried?
He's an all-mountain shredder.
He's not a dark horse anymore. He's you know what else he's done? He's publishing his Strava shit.
Oh,
ooh.
And he's also
that was a long time
things that have
ago.
changed. Actually, 4 things that have changed in Red Dog this year that I never thought I'd see, or at least didn't think I'd see anytime soon. 1, he's publishing stuff on Strava. 2,
find the evidence. Find the evidence there. Find the evidence.
I need to follow him.
Find the smoking gun.
You told me. You sent a screenshot to us.
I told you.
Of your King of Mountain.
I'll only publish it when I take a King of Mountain. And that was last year.
That's all I need to know.
And he's
So
taking them
these two,
every ride now.
The other thing that I saw that I didn't expect to ever see before, and Red Dog told me he's got a legit excuse for this, but I don't buy it. He took the fenders off the gravel bike.
Oh,
So he turned up.
Was legitimate. Straight back on too. They're already back on.
No,
well, I heard.
I'll give you that.
One Beer Fridays as well now.
It's always One Beer Fridays, Mikey.
Well, there you go. You are more committed than anyone else on this podcast.
And you'll never be a dark horse because you might be the whitest man I know.
I'm the white horse.
The white horse.
You are the white horse.
When you see these tour guys like when they're like midsummer or whatever, and they're like in the pits before they go out to race, and they're just pasty and gaunt.
It's like all of me.
We're Red Dog here today. He's going full gaunt.
It's Red Dog from top to
pasty
bottom.
guy. Yeah.
I was actually
pasty gaunt man.
Speaking of pasty people,
Who you about to throw under the bus?
Puck Peters, I was watching the cross country the other day, and I was like, "Oh, something's wrong with the TV," and then I realised
the contrast has gone fucked.
I can't remember who was. It was in the short track, and I can't remember who was near her, but I was just like, no, that's actually how white she is. She is like glowing. Versus, I can't remember who was just behind her, but they were very, very different skin tones.
That's my life, mate.
This is what I'm really liking about like post-doping, or presumably we're in the post-doping era of cycling, is that it's a proper meritocracy now, right? So they're making all these gains, mechanically, right? The tech is amazing.
All in carbs. It's just carbs.
But you look at those guys; there's like a fine line between being a heroin addict and being a Tour de France racer. Like, you could line those dudes up against, and I think the only difference is probably the scabby skin, like in terms of visual appearance, right? Except one guy can go and ride fucking 30 days of 200 k's of racing every day, and the other guy is getting his. One of them's got teeth and the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
But like the Lance Armstrong guys, those guys were pretty they were quite ripped. Like they weren't they
were
weren't
heavier than they were than they are these days.
They were units, but these days they're just fucking tiny, and they're savages.
I was trying to explain how the Tour de France works to some non-cycling friends in the weekend, and so I was trying to basically tell them about how there's teams and there's sprinters and there's guys who are going for GC and you've got climbers, and they're like, do they get paid well? And I'm like, well, one person on the team usually does. It's like the rest of them are on minimum wage and they basically just don't eat and they just put themselves through hell for months and months on end to just go and be the sacrificial lamb for the team.
There's something really, really old world, European about it as well. Something very kind of Napoleonic about, you're a domestique, you're the fucking bottom of the bottom, you're on the team, but you're a piece of shit, and your job is just to feed the guy at the top. And you do literally the same race, and you get none of the glory.
There's a guy on Instagram, Jimmy Rees, he's a comedian, and he's just put this video up about the guy who decides the Tour de France, and it's basically the dude.
That's quality, eh?
It's so good. It's like 5 minutes long of this guy basically dictating what he thinks the race should be to his assistant, and the assistant's just like, what? They're going to do what? He's like, yeah, and then there'll be this guy, and he just goes back to the car and gets food and brings it back, and then one day they say, you sacrifice yourself, and you go up the road, and it's so good. It's like the perfect...
They got the guys in the car are telling them, fucking go and kill yourself to catch up.
Yeah.
So not only that, you're getting abused by the team car the whole time.
I love how it's such a big, faux pas. They're like, oh my God, he's got his earpiece out. He's taken his earpiece out. You're like, that's listening. When you know that guy's just like, fuck this. I don't even want to hear this shit anymore. I'm taking my earpiece out.
Interesting slight sidestep, but Cav taking 35 wins is pretty massive too at 38 years of age. Or is he 39?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Yeah, he's old.
The other.
See, I think that's amazing, but from what I
let's not
understand,
go down.
our co-host Smokey might not be quite so supportive of those numbers.
No, I don't want to start this beef about sprinters.
Fucking sprint stages. I hate sprint stages.
It's so boring. I watched 26 minutes of recap of a sprint stage. They can't even make the recap interesting. It's like
I mean,
some scenery and shit, and it's like, oh yeah, 30 seconds in, the guy sprints great. We're all done. Cool. And old, what's his name? Jasper fella peels some guy into a barrier yet again. Like, that's it. It's not that interesting.
No, I do agree they're not the most riveting stages, but they are interesting when a dude of that age, who's clearly not the fastest, physically the fastest guy, can win.
No, he looked grim in the first couple of stages.
Yeah, he did look pretty grim.
I was surprised he made it that far.
I reckon it's
you do
from
sort of have a point, though, about like the racing side of that, because this stage overnight, the gravel stage, also ended in a sprint, but it was an uphill sprint. That looked like the most heinous, punishing fucking stage on a bike. Like, it looked like Edition Zero plus a Tour de France road stage plus an uphill sprint finish. Like, they literally put all of it in. It's like that one was the organisers are definitely taking the piss here. That looked like such a sick stage.
The best part about the stage yesterday was Remco taking off. Pog, it was Pog taking off after Remco, I think, and then Jonas going as well. And then it was like just ended up being those three GC guys, and then but then Jonas was just being a little. He was being a little bitch, and he wouldn't pull.
GC is right, like just a pack of good cunts.
But Pog, man, he's just the ultimate racer, though. It's so cool. He's just messing around with them, just about. It's pretty rad.
I think you wait till they get to the mountains, and he's just gonna put some real damage in again.
It's going to be interesting to see. But yes, I agree. That's probably what will happen. But
isn't that why the sprint stages are dull? Because they make it so interesting. Otherwise, those guys, when you give them something to work with.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think there's any argument about that. No one's arguing with you, Red Dog.
Oh, I know.
We're on the same page.
I just think, it's so good. Them going at it, it's fantastic. I reckon Jonas has got more for him, though. For some weird reason.
Yeah, Jonas is a good climber.
Yeah.
I think they should put the sprint stages, I don't know if they do this or not, but you know how with the climber classifications, they do them on parts of the course, right? So like you got climb points that you get for like certain climbs. They should do that with the sprinters as well. So like the sprint.
They do that.
But so like don't do it at the finish though. Just do like
they have an intermediate sprint as well.
They have heaps of
but don't do the finish one. So it's like after you finish that sprint, the race is still on. You know,
so then the sprinters can just back it off for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and so it's like if you want to win the stage, you still actually have to be in the mid stage or close to the front at the mid stage sprint, because otherwise you're not going to make it through the finish line sprint.
They should have like a 2K hole shot straight out of the start, so dudes just start going ape shit straight off the start line.
Well, they kind of do.
Yeah, it's true.
That's exactly what they've got. I mean, they're just trying to win the break, right? But yeah, I reckon Roglic is actually a sleeper. I think he's got more to give when we hit the mountains. He might have blown it by being a bit far back now, but you've seen before where he will make one major attack and put time in. But whether he can make that attack over the top of Poggy and that remains to be seen.
It's a couple of units he's against.
Yeah.
We totally missed the fact that to talk about the fact that the juniors didn't end up getting to race in Leger. I think it was because it was such an underwhelming race, I guess, because they got screwed, which was unfortunate.
I reckon our juniors got done too. Like, I feel like our juniors don't. They always race better than they qualify, especially the girls. They work good under pressure.
It was 3rd, 4th, 5th for Ali, Eris, Sasha. So I think Ali's still just got a few point lead over the girl that ended up winning. So, but yeah, it's kind of, especially for juniors, because they don't get any points for qualifying, so they kind of don't have a real desperate need, especially probably for those girls. Like, they're pretty much a shoe in to qualify for those three, so it's sort of like they don't need to put in a real hot qualifying time.
But see, so I've got a thought on this, Gary. There was I think it might have been Cathro's thing about it. Like, look, like maybe some of the juniors held it back in qualifying to preserve for finals.
Yeah, 100%.
Or like, playing it maybe strategically. But if you're a junior, should you be doing that? Should you be trying to play the strategy game, or should you just be going all out every time you're against the clock?
Well, I think you. Yeah. I read something. I think it was Ellie put on her Instagram. Like she'd had that crash early on, and she was like building. And I feel like you can't. If you peak for your qualifier, you end up like all the dudes who qualify fastest and then can never win.
Yeah.
Because they peak too early. You've got to get that peak right.
Did you guys see Ellie's crash? That was fucking huge.
Insane. I've only seen the POV.
Yeah, I've only seen the POV, but I was watching that and I was just like, it was one of those ones where as soon as she hits that boom, you're like, like this is worst case scenario.
Yeah, that was huge. It'd be interesting to see that from another view.
She's so strong that she can actually get out of that stuff pretty safe, luckily. That was
savage.
Yeah, that one was huge. Definition of a hugie right there.
Yeah, it's a hugie.
I've got a question. How much do you reckon Hill would have won Leger by in his prime?
15.
Yep.
Red Dog's got him by 15.
15.
Easy.
Are we talking 07 Hill?
Yeah, I mean you gotta go 07 or 08 Hill. Like that was some prime years.
Champagne Hill.
Yeah.
Champagne Hill.
Iron Horse.
Was he kicking about for some reason? Is he over there?
I see.
He looks like he's in Europe. He looks like he's
Red Dog's been on the gram, obviously.
Shaking down some foes.
KB sends me the photos that are important.
Screenshots.
Yep.
Are you going to Europe to shake down the foes? Like, shouldn't you be going to like California and just doing the eliminator or something?
Yeah.
Probably should be riding it in Fontana in the
Fontana
Winter Series. Fontana Winter Series.
Sprinting the wall.
Or like just sprinting down like a fire break road or something.
Yeah. That's about all it needs.
And then helping out in the shop, like just doing jobs around the shop.
Yep,
to
running the CNC machine like I used to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's do you reckon that's part of Hill's deal? It's like all foes riders have to do a bit of time on the CNC machine. It's like a thing that you don't like you don't actually get to complete your contract. You don't get your bike until you've actually built it.
I even ran the
it's taken a while for the
stamping machine that stamped out top tubes at one point.
Did you?
Yeah.
Man.
That's sick.
Yeah. Did some frame assembly, some straightening at the heat treating place. You'd go in, you'd get them on a jig, and you'd get a bar like in the seat tube, and you'd like give the frames a bit of a tweak till everything kind of straightened up. You get it in the steerer tubes and straighten everything up till it was straight before it went to powder coating.
All those yarns about like all the intensives back in the day weren't always necessarily straight, and it's like that's probably why.
Yeah, it depends how well you straighten them out.
Bending it.
There was it would have been Kavarik in there, just twisting them
still
around.
Do that.
That was a Friday drop.
Like Frank the welder with those frameworks bikes, they still tweak them during the heat treatment process, though.
Yeah, because they do twist when they get heat treated. So, you give them a little tweak.
Hey, I've got a question from the weekend, mud related. And we'll probably come close to wrapping that, but just a sneak one in there.
Did you say mud riding or mud wrestling?
Mud guards.
The weekend, mud guards. I've got a question about mud guards. This is a really boring chat, but and this is something that Cathro also raised. I'm just taking my content from someone else's content this time.
Fair enough.
But all the dudes running, well, not all of them, but some of the guys running the Fox Fork had a Fox mud guard, and then some of the guys had like the proper full-size mud hugger ones. But I was looking through the photos, and you could see like there's quite a big difference in the different sort of sizes and coverage and everything that everyone's running. It seemed like at this point people should have that sort of shit pretty dialed. Like the idea that one mud guard would be markedly better than another one.
Did Amaury have the big boy on?
He had the big boy.
Because his bike was
RPG or something.
Surprisingly clean.
That's
when
point,
I saw it,
right?
Yeah.
So like, and his shit on his face wasn't as messed up, and I was surprised that that's not something that people just got die of at the moment.
I'm a mudguard guy. I'd be all for the full fenders, full racks.
You'd have the front and rear racks on, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I found?
You'd have the stretched inner tube between your fucking crowns.
Also, what I found in the garage, actually, Oscar found it the other day, and he's like, "What's this?" And it was one of the remember when THE did like those where you'd put the removable fender things though between your crown and your fork arch, the Velcro and like neoprene. Oscar found one of those rolled up, and he's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a mudguard." He's like, "Can you put it on my bike?" And I'm like, "Ah, it's not going to fit on your bike, mate." It's like the shit you find in my garage.
They'd have the guys that have it dialed away, because that's pretty, I would have thought, key.
That's what I mean. Like I'd be interested to know if any of these guys, these teams, are going out and doing like proper mud race prep. Like intentionally going out on the worst, shittiest day of the year and going, right, what's the best setup for a day like that?
If anyone was doing it, it would be specialised.
Exactly.
And they had the discards on and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I love that shit. I think that's fucking cool.
See, we talked
guys, a few guys had those actually.
Yeah, Benoit had a discard on as well. So we talked a bit about and there was all the kind of speculation, and I can't really remember where it got to, but I reckon it's purely just to stop that change in your brakes from like water hitting your rotors and cooling stuff, and then you're losing kind of feeling and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I reckon it's just keeping that consistency.
Our theory where we landed on that last time was the heat thing. It's the opposite of trying to cool them down. It's trying to keep heat in them.
I think it's heat and bite, right? Because when you get crap on them, they kind of bite a bit weird the first few hits again.
But like, I reckon brake tech's good enough now that, like, if it's not a warm day, like if it's a cold day like that, there's no risk of them overheating. But there probably is risk of them actually not getting up to temperature quickly.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a course that starts in the open like that, and then you come into a steep section, you've got to hit the brakes quickly.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see Magura brought back the Gustav?
Yeah.
No.
It's quite ugly in the lever, but they made it for the Bosch system, didn't they? So you'd be happy with that. Was it them that did that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that have been a help in these conditions, Gary, the ABS?
ABS could have come in clutch in a few sections up there.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. That's what I like to hear.
All right, we've lost Lester. He's just disappeared on us. He probably went to bed.
Speaking of the mud management though, Kerry, sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah.
Did Dakota Norton have a Coke can for a roll-off canister on one side? Because my God, I've never seen a man pull it so often.
Those might have been for a 40-minute moto at Southwick in the rain.
He was tugging it non-stop.
He was constant. And then I noticed actually a lot of people coming along beside that lake would pull a tear off there or pull a roll off or whatever. Amaury only pulled in one spot from what I saw on that jump kind of midway in the trees, and that was it. So
wow. Maybe that's the mudguard thing again.
Yeah. I noticed that because he didn't pull one going along that flat section beside the lake, beside that pond. So that was interesting. But yeah, Dak was just going full noise. He was going for clear vision. No, that's good. Right, boys, it's time to sign off. We've done well. We've covered all the key essentials. We actually talked about the World Cup, so that was a really good one to tick off. Clearly, we got some Walker 100 chat and some gravel chat in there. Always good to have.
If you haven't entered yet, what are you doing? Get onto it. Enter the Walker.
Yeah. Come join us at the Walker.
We'll be there.
Best race of the year.
We'll be at the start together, and then we'll be there at various different times in the afternoon.
Anyone who wants a specialised training plan, Chris will help you out there. He's got it covered.
Yeah. Anyway, it's sort of one of these things that I think coming along to support the OTB podcast or be part of the game with the OTB podcast at the Fokker is sort of like you get to see all sides of endurance racing. You get to see like what it looks like the old man strength. You get to see like the elite prep. You get to see kind of just natural talent, and then you also just get to see like someone massively overreaching and overestimating their abilities, but then groveling their way to the line. So come along.
Oh, I think it shows heart. It shows heart, and don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you. He's a lot fitter than he's making out. This is all a ruse.
It's not heart of a lion. It's more just like fear of embarrassment.
Nah, don't be silly. Also, you know, we'll be kicking around the event, so they say never meet your heroes, and don't worry about that. You certainly won't when you meet the OTB team. So
you should come and meet
we're
your
no
heroes.
one's heroes, so they'll be fine.
Yeah, best thing you'll ever do on a mountain bike is enter the Fokker.
Is avoid us at all costs.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
Oh, and that's enough for this week. We'll see you next time.
Hurry.
What's up? I come from the land of down on I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to. B-L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.